What is going on, guys? Happy January the 30th. And as January comes to an end, the college basketball season is kicking up into high gear. In just the past 24 hours alone, we have had a Duke player throw up under the court or under the basket where they had to use basically every athletic training towel to clean up his throw up. That was terrible. Feel for him, you know. Arizona, Caleb Love hits a half-court shot at the buzzer past midnight on the Eastern time zone and sends that into overtime against number 3 Iowa State, and ends up winning a classic in overtime. We have a massive brawl in the VCU St. Louis fans behind the St. Louis bench. I mean, once you're expecting, you wouldn't turn into A10 basketball to see a UFC fight happen, but you did. You had Conor McGregor lead the BYU student section. Conor McGregor and BYU, two things that you don't think go together, yet they do. And that's just 24 hours in college basketball. And it is the greatest sport in the world for a good reason, because you never know what you're going to get on any given Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any day of the week. Because what you get on Saturday is going to be classics, and then what you're going to get in the midweek are just going to be chaotic. It's a great sport, man. There is nothing like this beautiful sport of college basketball. Now, let's talk some college hoops. Just a couple quick games here, and then we're going to get on to who are the frauds and who are the contenders and who you should be able to trust this year in your bracket, okay? We're going to start off with the game of the week, and I thought the game of the week, personally, in my opinion, is Kentucky and Tennessee. Number 8, Tennessee, number 12, Kentucky. Look, when you come into this game, it's a big rivalry. It's a border rivalry. Both programs do not like each other. This is a weird recent series between these two teams because, you know, home court advantage has really not been a factor in the past. Ever since post-COVID, since 2020, it's really Kentucky goes on the road, beats Tennessee. But then Tennessee comes to Kentucky and wins. That's kind of how it's been post-COVID for the most part. Look, Kentucky's won 4 out of their last 5 in Knoxville. And going into this game, Kentucky really needed a win. Couldn't afford to go on a 3-game losing streak. When you look at this Cats team, they're having a great season. Mark Pope is definitely up there for Coach of the Year, I would certainly say. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Had a month to build this roster. Look, it's not going to be easy. The expectations at Kentucky are high. Even if you only have a month to build your team, this fan base is going to think you're going to be a national championship contender regardless. And that's what the passionate fan base of Big Blue Nation wants. And Mark Pope has delivered on that. Look, this is a Kentucky team that has had a season to remember. This is a guy in Mark Pope that has helped bring juice back to this program. And when you go and you look at what Mark Pope has been able to do this year, it's nothing short of spectacular. He has had Kentucky beat number 2 Duke, number 5 Florida, number 8 Tennessee on the road, number 13 Texas A&M, and number 14 Mississippi State on the road. And by the way, let's throw in the Gonzaga game out in Seattle when Lamont Butler was down with injury, okay? When Kirk Ariza went down with an injury in that game. You're short-handed right there on the road in Seattle against a good Gonzaga basketball team, down double digits, and to come back and win that game. And it is not even February. So if you were to ask me if Mark Pope should be National Coach of the Year, you betcha. You betcha. Because when you look at what he has been able to do, he's had 6 wins against top 15 teams this year. That is tied for most in Kentucky basketball history. And guess what? He hasn't even started coaching in February yet. And as we know with what the SEC is this year, it's a gauntlet. Make no mistake of it. It is going to be a gauntlet game in and game out. So there will be plenty of more opportunities for him to get top 15 wins this year. But what Mark Pope has been able to do is spectacular. Look, this is a game against Tennessee. Your backs are against the wall. You need a win. You're not healthy. Andrew Carr's got a back injury. Lamont Butler's battling a shoulder injury, okay? Kirk Ariza's still out with a foot injury. You're down 2 guards, and a very, 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 very veteran leadership guy in Andrew Carr, one of the team captains. Things aren't looking great. You go into this as a 10.5-point underdog, and what Mark Pope and Kentucky were able to do on Tuesday night in Food City Arena is special. It's special. You know, they talk about having a championship chest. They want to play for the state of Kentucky that is right across their chest. And on Tuesday, they certainly did, I would think so. In a 78-73 victory for Kentucky. A spectacular win to go on the road in a really tough atmosphere and to handle business. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal win. You know, Kobe Brea needed to have a good shooting night. He did. He led the Cats in scoring with 18. Amari Williams had another double-double. This guy is the most underrated player on this Cats team. You know, underappreciated as well, but he does some great things. He's an unbelievable rebounder. He turned into a point forward last night. When they needed him the most, he was making big plays. Shout out Amari Williams on his birthday to have that type of performance on Saturday. Now, flip side here, we know what we have in Kentucky. We have a team that's going to show up and we know they're going to fight. That's what Mark Pope has kind of engraved into this Kentucky roster, are guys that are going to fight for this team. Special. Now, the flip side, when we get to Tennessee here, and look, this is not the last time we're going to talk about them because I'll tell you right now, a spoiler, Tennessee will end up in my frauds category, okay, later in the show. And we're going to get to reasons why. But once again, we saw Tennessee struggle, and my big concern here with Tennessee is 24% from three. They can't really shoot the three. They took 45 threes. 45 threes. Now look, that is not Tennessee basketball. They're not going out there and trying to play NBA ball and just shoot and live and die by the three. But that's what they did on Tuesday night. I thought Kentucky did a phenomenal job guarding the three, doing what they needed to do. They shot 24% from three. They fell into Kentucky's trap. I thought Kentucky's defense was phenomenal. I thought that was a very good thing to see for the Cats on how they performed defensively. I thought Tennessee didn't have a rhythm. I thought besides their 11-0 run to end the half, there really wasn't much going their way. So huge win for Kentucky. Absolutely massive win to say the least. And they got a much needed win. And look, we're going to circle it. It's been circled on the calendar, right? I mean, it's the elephant in the room. John Calipari's return to Lexington this Saturday is must-see TV. Must-see TV. You know, he had great memories here. Won a national championship, had a 38-0 team in 2015. That was special. He's done a lot of great things here. You know, it didn't end the way that John Calipari and Kentucky probably would have liked. They parted ways. He takes the Arkansas job, and now it's going to be the first time he's back in Lexington since he took the job. And I'm sure it's going to be mixed emotions, not only with Cal, but with the fans on how he's going to get received. So it's going to be a great game Saturday night, 9 o'clock on ESPN, Kentucky, Arkansas. John Calipari makes his return, and should be definitely a fun one to watch. The other game I want to talk about is the Monday night game we had, which was a classic between Iowa State and Arizona. Tommy Lloyd and the Arizona Wildcats really need a win. Going into this game, they're 13-6. They're doing great things in the Big 12 after having a struggling non-conference. They've kind of pieced together what they're figuring out on how to become a team together. Everybody's starting to step up and play their roles. And this is a big game. It gives you the opportunity to stay on Houston's tail for the number one seed in the Big 12. And Arizona, when they needed a must-win game, they got one. At home, in the McHale Center, it was rocking on Monday night. Caleb Love hits a half-court three at the buzzer. Bang! All of a sudden, they're going nuts. Overtime, they ran him off the floor, winning that overtime period 15-4 to end the game on a 15-4 run in the last 5 minutes. Phenomenal job by Tommy Lloyd's Arizona Wildcats to get a much-needed win. Not worried about Iowa State. Still think they're spectacular. I think they're going to be really good. Not a team you'd want to see in your bracket come March. That was a really good game. And it is slowly starting to feel more and more like March. Now, those are the two big games I kind of wanted to talk about. There's been a lot of great games this week so far up to this point. I mean, when you look at it, you know, Alabama, Mississippi State, top 25 slugfest. So, I mean, we've had a lot of good ones so far. But what we're going to talk about now is the annual. Every year when divisional comes to an end in the NFL, we always kind of give spotlight to college basketball. I feel like it's deserved. I feel like the sport is underappreciated. And if you do follow it, good for you because you're a smart individual. Because I think it's one of the greatest sports, if not the best sports, that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's very spectacular. It's very awesome. And if this is your first time keeping up with college basketball, hey, welcome to the greatest show on a court. It is drama. It is action-packed. It has you on the edge of your seat. Every single game, doesn't matter who's playing, you're going to get a classic every single night. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So welcome. We're happy to have you. Now look, when you look at this team, when we're going to start off with contenders, you have to start off with the number one team in the country, and that's the Auburn Tigers. This team is absolutely spectacular. What Bruce Pearl has been able to do with this team is phenomenal. Janiah Broome, National Player of the Year. You certainly have to think. He has been unbelievable this season. Battled that ankle injury. No big deal. He kind of bounced through it, came back for that Tennessee game over the weekend, and if they don't have Janiah Broome, they don't beat Tennessee. They don't beat them. So he was a huge factor to have on the court on Saturday. Baker Mazzara, every team needs a glue guy. He fits that role perfectly. He's a phenomenal energy piece, a phenomenal glue guy that they have and that they really enjoy. Okay? Really love their pieces that they have together. Pettiford, a freshman. Guy's a bucket getter. Guy's going to be playing in the NBA before you know it. They got guys. They got dogs. And Auburn is a team that they're number one in the country, and I really don't think it's close. I think it's pretty unanimous. I think when you look at this Auburn Tiger team, they're the best team in the country. And I really don't think it's really that crazy of a thing to say. But they are absolutely spectacular for good reason. So if you were making your bracket, if the season ended today, the Auburn Tigers are a team that you probably want to take to San Antonio. Really good team. Don't really have much flaws. Good defensive team, an elite offensive team with a great coach in Bruce Pearl. So I definitely think the Auburn Tigers are something that are really spectacular and something that you ought to keep an eye out on. The Duke Blue Devils. Look, this one, they're number 2 in the country, okay? This one's going to ruffle some feathers. Whether they are, look, they are contenders, okay? Let me just clarify that. They are a top 5 team in the country, talent-wise. They should be a team that finds their way to San Antonio. I get that. And maybe it's a stretch on why I would put them in the pretenders category. And it's probably a hot take, okay? Let's make no mistake about that. No mistake about that. But this is my opinion. They're 18-2. They're rolling through the ACC. Their only 2 losses are to Kentucky and to Kansas. 2 powerhouse blue bloods that are pretty good this year. Okay? When I look at this Duke team, though, the reason I would be skeptical of riding them a long way in March is because of the schedule. Now, you can only play what's in front of you. I get that. But they had a huge win against Auburn. Huge. I mean, that's probably the best win any team's done in the country this year. Hats off to Duke, okay? Hats off to Duke. The only loss for Auburn was at Duke. Like, that's not a bad loss at all. And that's a dang good win for Duke, okay? But what I am concerned about when it comes to March, okay, can you win the close games? Now, they are so much better than everybody. They have probably the best player in the country who's going to be the number 1 pick in the Cooper Flag. He's coming into his own. They're a spectacular team. John Shire's done a really good job. Duke has all of the makings to go to the Final Four. So I don't know if I want to put them as pretenders, but I don't want to put them as contenders, right? I'm going to put them more so in the middle because when I look at the ACC, it's a terrible conference. It is absolutely abysmal. It's abysmal, okay? Duke is legit. I think Louisville's finding their way. They're coming along. I think Pat Kelsey's done a phenomenal job in year 1 at Louisville, and I think that was a great hire. I think both the Kentucky schools hit a home run on both of their hires. When you are beating teams by double digits every single night, maybe that's concerning. Because the last time Duke had a single-digit win was December the 4th against Auburn. Very good win, okay? I'm not discrediting them. Well, January 11th against Notre Dame actually was an 8-point win. But besides the point, when I'm looking at Duke, A lot of these games are beatdowns, which is great for them. How will you be able to find yourself in March in a tough situation to play from behind? Okay? Because when I look at the two games that Duke has played from behind this year, it was Duke and Kentucky. Now, they were up 9 on Kentucky at half, but Kentucky came back and won and took a lead in the second half, and Duke couldn't get over that hump to regain a lead. That's what I'm concerned with. Kansas, for the most part, had Duke in their back pocket. Close game, though, towards the end. Hell of a game. What a game, right? When we look at that concern for Duke, it is something I have to kind of monitor. Look, I mean, if you're not going to play great opponents, you can only play what's in front of you. And the ACC is historically bad this year. They may have 2, maybe 3 teams go to the NCAA tournament this year, okay? I mean, Duke doesn't get tested. And I feel like you want to be tested. And we're not seeing Duke be tested. And look, that's a great job on John Shire. He's done a great job coaching this year. He's done a phenomenal job recruiting, building this team. It's not their fault that their level's better than everybody. And everybody else in their conference is just bad. Okay? With that being said, though, you want to get tested a little bit. And I feel like Duke feels like they're bulletproof. And I want to see Duke get tested in the last 4 minutes of the game, in the last 10 minutes of the game even. When they're losing, can they dig deep and get a win and come back and win? Not once, but multiple times. Because if you can do it once, that's great. But can you find a way to build on it? Can you build character? So I think Duke's great. I think they're more than capable enough to win the national championship. But I'd put them right in the middle slate. Look, that's a new one. I wasn't thinking I was going to do that. But once I started getting to thinking about it, I don't think they're pretenders. But I also don't think that they're like the elite contenders. Because I need to see them go through some battle scars, okay? Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Look, when we look at Alabama, I think they're a contender. One of the best offenses in the country, actually the best offense in the country on Ken Palm. They are scoring the ball at an elite level. Just went to a Final Four last year, returned majority of their roster, got Mark Sears back, got Grant Nelson back. They have a lot of good pieces to win the national championship. The Alabama Crimson Tide are really good. They play to their strengths. Nate Oates is a phenomenal head coach. Put them in the contender category. Along with Iowa State. Look, with Lipsey, Curtis Jones, 6th man of the year, phenomenal roster in Ames, Iowa. They're really fun to watch. I think Iowa State, their defense is absolutely electric. One of the best in the country. They find themselves at 17-3. They don't get pushed around much. Just took a tough loss to Arizona. Probably should have won the game. Look, if that half-court shot doesn't go in, they win the game. Now, they should have won it in overtime, but that's tough to come back from a half-court shot. All momentum shifts to Arizona, right? And you saw it. So, not really going to look too deep into that one. I like Iowa State a lot. But, yeah. Here's a team I really like. I really enjoy watching them. But I would put them in our first category of they are the pretenders. That's the Florida Gators. Look, when I look at Florida, I think they have arguably the best backcourt in the entire country. What you get out of Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, they are absolutely electric. They are really good. Really good. They have the 3 best guards backcourt in the country. I'll say that right now. Their offense is as elite as any offense in the country is. They're 18-2. They're really good. Okay? Now, Saturday, they go on the road to Tennessee. First of all, that's a dig deep game for Tennessee because you lost at Auburn, you lost to Kentucky at home, now you got Florida coming to you at home. You got to win that game or you're on a 3-game losing streak. And you're already 4-4 in the SEC. Now, look, the SEC is a gauntlet. We know that, okay? You have the number 8 team in the country at 500 in their conference because it's an absolute dogfight each and every single night. But when I look at Florida, they found a way to win at South Carolina, okay? South Carolina's the worst team in the SEC. I've been pretty clear about that. They should have lost that game. But they didn't. Will Richards saved the day. Great layup down the stretch. Congrats to the Florida Gators. Now, with that being said, okay, when I look at this Florida Gator team, I think their defense is a cause for concern. I think this Florida Gator defense is very, very skeptical. And I don't know the way they play if it's capable of winning them 6 straight games. Can they win a game ugly? Can they win a game ugly? Now, look, they're 18-2. They're having a phenomenal season. I think they're one of the greatest teams in the country right now. But can you trust them in March? Look, their only loss, Kentucky on the road, they gave up 106. That's concerning, okay? That is concerning. They lost to Missouri at home. They were double-digit favorites. They should have probably lost to South Carolina. Will Florida be able to find a way to win games in the 60s, 70s? I don't know. And I don't think so. So that's the only reason I'm a little hesitant on Florida, and I put them in the Pretenders category. I don't know if Todd Golden right now, with all their off the field or off the court distractions, is going to be something to be nervous about. I don't know. I mean, they have an assistant now getting investigated as well. So, something that you got to kind of figure out. But yeah, I think they're a really good team, but I would put them right now. I don't know if they're going to make it to San Antonio. Houston. Look, I don't think, this is a tough one too. They're 16-3, went on to Kansas and won. Huge win. They're undefeated in the Big 12. That's great. I don't think Houston's going to win the national championship. And I say that because, look, they have 2 quad 1 wins this year. Okay? They're playing what's in front of them. But out of their 16 wins, only 2 of them were quad 1 games. Okay? That's concerning to me. I'm not really sure if I can believe in that if I'm the Houston Cougars. Look, they pride themselves in defense. I get that. Can their offense find a way to be elite? I'm not so sure. I think in years past, Houston's had a lot of better teams than what they've had this year, talent-wise, with certain guys that have played at the next level too, and they still weren't able to get to a Final Four. They still weren't able to execute down the stretch in March. Look, Houston's not a team that gets upset in the first round, nor the round of 32. They're your Sweet 16, Elite 8 type team, but I just don't know if they have what it takes to get themselves to a Final Four. So I put them in Pretenders. Michigan State is a contender. And people don't want to talk about it, but it's true. The Michigan State Spartans are spectacular right now. They find themselves at 18-2. This Michigan State team, their last loss was in the Maui Invitational during Thanksgiving. They didn't lose in December. They didn't lose in January. They're rolling through teams. They're undefeated in the Big Ten. What Tom Izzo has done with this Spartans team is spectacular. Yet, not many people seem to know about the Michigan State Spartans. Tom Izzo certainly has a case to get in the Coach of the Year conversation. He's been spectacular with this Spartans team. They have been incredible this year. Absolutely incredible. Not losing since the Maui Invitational. They found what they needed to work on. They made adjustments, and the Michigan State Spartans are very, very, very good. The Tennessee Volunteers, I would put them as a contender. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower. They're the number 1 defense in the country. Surely, they're phenomenal. But you see exactly what their problem is that they ran into on Tuesday night against Kentucky. When you play an elite offense like Kentucky is, who's ranked number 3 in the country in scoring, once Kentucky has their way with you, can you win in a shootout? We saw on Tuesday night, Tennessee wasn't capable enough of doing that. 45 threes is not their game. Kentucky got them off their game. They couldn't get anything going from beyond the arc. That's a struggle for Tennessee, okay? I think that's a real big concern for the Tennessee Volunteers. I think when you look at it, their firepower, Chaz Lanier guy, the guy that's supposed to kind of take over games for them, I've not really been terribly impressed. Yes, he's averaging 17 or almost 18 points per game. I get that. But once you see what they were doing against Auburn, once they were doing against Kentucky, when you go and look at it, right, against Auburn, where was Chaz Lanier? This is your guy. This is your guy that you trust. This is the guy that you want, okay, to step up in the biggest moments of the game. He was nowhere to be found. Against Kentucky, it's the same thing. He was nowhere to be found again. That's your guy. I mean, you already had it against, I want to say it was Texas this year. He didn't have a great game, I want to say. And Rick Barnes pulled him out and said, I can't, like, you're not doing what we pay you for, which that's kind of just the new way of NIL, right? Players get paid to do certain things. Chaz Lanier hasn't lived up to it. Look, he had a great non-conference. Thought he was great. In the SEC so far, I haven't said that about him. I don't think he's a guy that you can rely on like you could Dalton Connect of last year to take you down the stretch. So hesitant on that Tennessee. I don't think their offense is elite enough. I'm putting them in the pretenders category, okay? Couple more teams here, and we will wrap it up. Let's talk with Marquette. Look, I think this team's a contender as well. I think it's hard to get into the contender category. It's a lot easier to find yourself in the pretender category. When I look at Marquette, have some bad losses. You're in the Big East. You don't have a ton of expectations, a lot of quad one opportunities. Now, Saturday, they get UConn. Huge game right there for both programs, okay? Because there's not many quad one opportunities for Marquette. That's when you got to get. And for UConn, you're fighting the verge of going from unranked. Right? You can't afford that. UConn's looking like a 7, 8, 9 seed right now. Not great for Dan Hurley. It's tough to go back-to-back, though. Don't get me wrong. So they're feeling that pressure. Liam McNeely's been injured. A lot of things haven't gone the way UConn wanted, okay? When I look at Marquette, they have a star. Cam Jones is that star, okay? With that being said, though, I just don't feel like Marquette, and it's in the back of my head, Shaka Smart, he doesn't get to Final Fours. More times than not, Shaka Smart gets eliminated early in the tournament. It's something you have to be concerned about if you're a Marquette basketball fan. I just don't think that they have what it takes to make a run. Just my opinion. Last two teams I want to touch on here, and that's the Kansas Jayhawks. Okay, we're going to finish with two blue bloods. That's Kansas. Look, when I look at Kansas, 15 and 5. Okay, I'm not there with them either. Look, I look at Kansas and I just see a lot of losses that probably shouldn't be losses, okay? You've had your moments, you beat Duke. That's as good as a win as you're going to find. The Creighton loss is a very bad loss, and they beat you by 13. That's bad. Losing to Missouri. I was at Missouri. Missouri's been better than what a lot of people expected this year. You should still win that game. Losing to unranked West Virginia on your home floor, not ideal. Then you get to see what you're up against at Iowa State. Where do you find yourself against the big dogs, right? And you lose by 17. Not ideal. You got ran out of the building and that game was never close. And then the collapse that you had against Houston on your home floor once again, where Houston had a 0.4% chance, and you found a way to fall down the stretch with a 5-second violation, with a turnover on the inbounds. That's not winning basketball. It's not. I don't trust Kansas to go far this year. Not that I'm saying Bill Self was falling off. I think he's a great coach. I just feel like I wasn't high on them last year, right? I didn't think they could shoot the three ball well. I thought Bill Self did a good job at going to identify that, bringing in Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin, get some outside shooters. But seeing them be inconsistent this year is a struggle and a concern. I would put them in the contenders category, Sweet 16 ceiling. Just my opinion. To end the show, though, Kentucky. Look, this is a team that's ranked 12th, find themselves at 15 and 5. Why I'm putting Kentucky in the contenders category is simple. We have seen it. We have seen what they have been able to do this year, okay? And it's pretty miraculous, by the way, what Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats have been able to accomplish in year one with him. Building this team in a month, building a team of all transfers, guys that have never played together with one another, and gelling. Just like that. They're a fun team to watch. They have 6 wins. 6 wins over top 15 teams. That's why I think it is such an incredible accomplishment to see what Pope has done. So, I think when you look at what they've been able to do, it gives you enough benefit of the doubt to say this team's a contender because they can beat the best teams in the country. 6. It's the most top 15 wins in the country. Mark Pope has the ability to be National Coach of the Year. He's been spectacular this year. And he's revived Kentucky basketball. This is a team that has shown you they can win in multiple ways. They're the number 3 offensive team in the country. They can shoot the lights out of the ball. Okay? But they've also showed you that, hey, if we have to play scrappy and not get into the 80s, we can win. They did it against A&M, and they've now done it against Tennessee. They're showing you they have multiple ways of how they can beat you. Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats are for real. They've had their bumps along the way. Maybe losses that kind of tough. Probably shouldn't lose, but they do. But then they make up with it with wins to Gonzaga, wins on the road to Mississippi State, at Tennessee, Florida, okay, Duke. They can beat anybody in the country. That's why they fall into the contenders category, and we are set for a really exciting slate of basketball this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Florida, Tennessee, Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, Arkansas, Calipari comes home, Gonzaga, St. Mary's to end the night. It is a loaded slate of college basketball. I'm so excited. And that's going to do it to this episode of the Mac on Sports Podcast. I hope you guys are all caught up. Start connecting yourself in the college game as the NFL's off this week, and then we have the Super Bowl next week we will talk about. But it's college basketball season now, ladies and gentlemen. Saturday, the calendar flips to February. We're a month away from March, the greatest time of the year. There's nothing like it. So get excited, because this college basketball season has a lot of parity. It's got a lot of unknowns, and it's going to be a lot of drama come March. I love you guys. I will see you guys later. Peace out.